Hurricane Milton has become a very strong Category 5 here in the Gulf of Mexico, running north of the Yucatan Peninsula as it treks to the east at 10 miles an hour. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Weather Forecast Center. This is John here to give you the latest on Hurricane Milton. As you can see by the infrared satellite picture, this is Hurricane Milton, a 180-mile-an-hour hurricane spinning north of the Yucatan Peninsula as of right now. As it heads to the east at 10 miles an hour. Its central pressure is 905 millibars, one of the strongest hurricanes down here in the Gulf of Mexico in a very long time, at least 100 years. So this buzzsaw will run north of the Yucatan Peninsula overnight tonight into tomorrow. I have a lot of information to give y'all, so here is from the National Hurricane Center, the actual bulletin as of the 5 o'clock advisory. Hurricane and storm surge warnings issued for portions of the Florida West Coast. Milton poses an extremely serious threat to Florida, and residents are urged to follow the orders of local officials. I will say right now there will be incredible storm surge on the front end and on the back end of this storm. So even wherever this eye passes, the areas to the south will have a prolonged period of storm surge with the trajectory of Hurricane Milton. As of the 5 o'clock advisory, the location is 21.8 north, 90.8 west. It is about 80 miles west-northwest of Progreso, Mexico, or 675 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida. Movement is east at 10 miles an hour. The direction of the forward speed will change starting tomorrow into Wednesday. Go east northeast, then go straight northeast over that period in the next 24 hours. Its maximum sustained winds are at 180 miles an hour. Its minimum central pressure is 905 millibars. That is an awfully strong hurricane out in the Gulf of Mexico right now. There's a lot of information with warnings and watches, so I will give you all of it right now. A storm surge warning has been issued for the west coast of Florida from Flamingo northward to the Swanee River, including Charlotte Harbor and Tampa Bay. A hurricane warning has been issued for the west coast of Florida from Bonita Beach northward to the mouth of the Swanee River, including Tampa Bay. A tropical storm warning has been issued for the west coast of Florida, south of Bonita Beach to Flamingo, including Lake Okeechobee, and north of the mouth of the Swanee River, northward and westward to Indian Pass. A tropical storm warning has also been issued for all of the Florida Keys, including the Dry Tortugas and Florida Bay. A storm surge watch has been issued for the U.S. East Coast from Sebastian Inlet, Florida to Edisto Beach, South Carolina, including the St. Johns River. A hurricane watch has been issued along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula from the St. Lucie Indian River County line northward to the mouth of the St. Mary's River. A tropical storm watch has been issued along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula south of the St. Lucie Indian River County line southward to Flamingo. A tropical storm watch has also been issued along the coast of Georgia and South Carolina from north of the mouth of the St. Mary's River to South Santee River, South Carolina. Okay. Obviously, storm surge warnings means that there will be inundation to the coastline during the next 36 hours. A hurricane warning means that hurricane conditions are expected within the next 36 hours. Tropical storm warnings mean that tropical storm conditions are expected within 36 hours. A storm surge watch means that there's a possibility of life threatening inundation within the next 48 hours. A hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions are possible within 48 hours. A tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible within 48 hours. I will show you a graph of what that looks like in a few moments. I'm going to adjust my camera here for a minute. Okay. So for the storm surge forecast, it's a laundry list, and I will go over each one of them individually. The Anclot River, Florida to Inglewood, Florida will have 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Tampa Bay will have 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Inglewood, Florida to Bonita Beach, Florida will have 6 to 10 feet of storm surge. Charlotte Harbor will have 6 to 10 feet of storm surge. Yankeetown, Florida to Anclot River, Florida will have 5 to 10 feet of storm surge. Bonita Beach, Florida to Chokoloskee, Florida will have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. Swanee River, Florida to Yankeetown, Florida, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Chokoloskee, Florida to Flamingo, Florida, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Flagler, Volusia County line, Florida to Altamaha Sound, Georgia will have 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Sebastian Inlet, Florida to Flagler, Volusia County line, Florida, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. Altamaha Sound, Georgia to Edisto Beach, South Carolina, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. Dry Tortugas, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge, and the St. Johns River, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. You need to listen to your local officials on possible mandatory evacuations from any of these locations. I would suggest you need to get away from the coast by no later than Tuesday night. Rainfall amounts of 5 to 10 inches with localized totals up to 15 inches are expected across portions of the Florida Peninsula through Thursday. Also, There will be 4 to 7 inches of rainfall across the Florida Keys through Thursday. In addition, rainfall amounts of 2 to 4 inches with isolated totals around 6 inches are expected across northern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula. So that is the wording from the National Hurricane Center. Now I will go over um, model guidance. This is the HAFSB um, model, and at on Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. they have this as an 884 millibar hurricane. That could be a 200-mile-an-hour hurricane at 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. It's quite possible, which will become one of the strongest hurricanes in more than 100 years in the Gulf of Mexico. This is where I'm starting the model forecast from, where it gets that low. Okay? As we would continue this forward, as you can see, the millibars start to rise. It is now on 936. It is a 936 on its approach to Florida. And this is Wednesday at 5 p.m. So it goes from an 884 to a 936. So it's on a steady weakening phase at this point. As we continue this forward, this is only 1 mile run. It brings it in to near Tampa Bay as a 953. That's an ugly looking 3. That's better. As a 953. That'll be on the order of probably of 140 mile per hour storm. Maybe a little bit higher. With, oh God, that's terrible. Let's try that again. With gusts around 165 to 170. Okay? And that's coming into north of Tampa Bay. So you got winds that are coming around, pulling all this water into the coastline for hours on the south side of the storm. This will be blowing out. And then you're going to have your winds piling up the water up here on the east side. So you're going to get storm surge on the bottom end and on the bottom end and on the top end of the storm. So as we continue this forward, makes landfall, exits as a 981, okay, which will still be maybe a 90-mile-an-hour storm. But you got all this wind that's coming up, piling the water up on the Georgia, South Carolina border, and also back here into Florida and down here. So you still have storm surge on the eastern side of Florida into Georgia and into South Carolina before this fully exits further out into the ocean. Now we will go to the H wharf model, and we're going to pick this up. We'll run this right. So that's 5 o'clock. So we'll run this here. Obviously, this is low or too high since it's a 905. Okay, so this says it's a 923. We'll run this forward. Steadily decreases to a 912 and then starts slowly rising on its approach to Florida. This one, before making landfall, will be a 943, according to this model. This is the H wharf. And it's a lot further north than the HVAC-B model. So this has a different solution than the other one. And then this makes landfall on the southern Big Bend of Florida. And that is a 948. So that'll be a category 4 storm to the north, which is a worst case scenario because you got all this water piling into Tampa Bay and areas to the south. I mean, even the tighter winds here, I mean, you're piling up a lot of water into the coast. And then on this backside, you're piling it up here into Georgia, here into the east coast of Florida. As we continue on, this stays pretty strong through the state of Florida, exits as a 975. So that'll be a Cat 2, more than likely, by this model. Okay, that'll be a Cat 2, exiting um, Florida, but all the storm surge coming up into the east coast of Florida. Oh, I didn't go. So that landfall would be approaching early on Thursday. That'll be kind of like 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, which is slower than the other model. Um, so we will go to what the GFS shows, or maybe not. Uh oh. Let's go back to this. Go back to this. Okay, so that basically took a dump. But so anyway, this will be a strong storm coming into Florida. Um, I want graphics. That's what I want. So I will show you the cone. Okay. Here's where it is right now. It'll stay a major hurricane all the way up through landfall here, um, late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Here are your hurricane watches or your warnings. Here's your watch up here to the north. Watches here to the south. And then you got it on the east coast here. Tropical storm watches and warnings. And then here's your hurricane warning down here in northern part of the Yucatan with a major, major hurricane buzzsaw that is north of the Yucatan Peninsula. Luckily, most of the strongest winds will be north of the Yucatan Peninsula. So, so they will not get the full brunt of this storm. They will just get a glancing blow, but the glancing blow will be significant. As far as the rainfall outlook, um, see if I can measure this out. So then you got 8 to 12 inches here. Um, but most of this here, basically where the northern path will go, is generally in the 5 to 10 inch range, except for maybe a few areas south of Jacksonville where it could be isolated amounts of 12 inches plus. Um, Freshwater, saltwater flooding are definitely in the realm of possibilities, maybe even worse than that. But the storm surge is what is going to be the biggest issue. So here is your 10 to 15 feet storm surge area. Here to here, and that does include Tampa Bay. So um, let me move this further down so y'all can see it. All right, let me redraw this. So here is your 10 to 15 feet storm surge area, be from here to here, and that does include Tampa Bay. Um, Flash flooding will be a real uh, issue. Here is your flash flooding forecast. Basically, anywhere north of where the center comes in and to the south will have moderate risk of flooding, which is a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met. Um, your arrival of winds would be, this is for tropical storm force winds, would be Wednesday at 8 a.m. So you have until, for those that are leaving town off the west coast of Florida, um, you have until Tuesday night to finish your preparations. Um, this is going to be a major blow to the state of Florida. Not trying to scare anybody, but this has a real potential being, you know, a very devastating blow to the west coast of Florida. Um, so I will go over the key messages. There's four of them. So damaging hurricane force winds and a life-threatening storm surge with destructive waves are expected across portions of the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula through tonight. That's for the Yucatan Peninsula because that's where the storm is right now. Milton is expected to grow in size and remain an extremely dangerous hurricane when it approaches the west coast of Florida on Wednesday. A large area of destructive storm surge will occur along parts of the west coast of Florida on Wednesday. This is an extremely life-threatening situation, and residents in those areas should follow advice given by local officials and evacuate immediately if told to do so. I will tell you this, anybody that is in the higher echelon of the storm surge should be gone. Okay, gone off the beachfront properties, and head inland. You don't have to go far inland. You only have to go a few miles inland, and you'd be fine. I mean, you'll still deal with you know, the dangerous winds and power outages, but you don't have to drive like 300-400 miles away or anything. Potentially devastating hurricane force winds are expected along portions of the west coast of Florida, where a hurricane warning is now in effect. Milton is forecast to remain a hurricane as it crosses the Florida peninsula, and life-threatening hurricane force winds, especially in gusts, are expected to spread inland across a portion of the entire Florida peninsula. Okay? Even though it will make landfall on the west coast of Florida, it will still remain a hurricane through the whole peninsula until it exits the east coast of Florida. Preparations to protect life and property in the warning areas should be completed by Tuesday night since tropical storm conditions are expected to begin within this area early Wednesday. So you have basically until midnight tomorrow night to have everything boarded up, um, or hunkered down or anything of that nature, and make sure that you are um, done with your preparations before you leave. Areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida today, well ahead of well ahead of Milton, with heavy rainfall more directly related to the system expected later on Tuesday through Wednesday night. This rainfall will bring the risk of considerable flash urban and aerial flooding, along with potential for moderate to major river flooding. I will tell you this, in front of Milton, there is a disturbance in front of this that will pretty much encompass rain through 75% of the peninsula before the storm actually gets there. So there have been flood watches already been posted since yesterday for the heavy rain with the tropical disturbance well ahead of this hurricane. So make sure that you seek higher ground if you are under any kind of flash flood warnings. Um, Make sure that you seek higher ground. And if you live near riverbeds and stuff like that, you move to higher ground off of that. Um, Turn around, don't drown. Do not drive in the flooded highways. Too many times I hear stories about people thinking that they can drive through a flooded roadway and they lose their lives. This is a situation where it is going to be extremely dangerous, okay? And you should not be traveling outside unless you are one, a storm chaser that knows what they're doing, and two, local news media. Um, so if you if there and to be honest, there's nothing going to be open in the state of Florida, especially on the peninsula side. So why should why should you be out anyway? So that is the information on Hurricane Milton as of the 5 o'clock advisory. New advisory should be coming out. Maybe I can catch it. Maybe I can catch it. Just give me 1 second. Let me see if I got. Nope. Okay. So let's refresh this. Nope. Don't have a new one yet. Okay. So that is all I have for you as far as the latest information on Hurricane Milton. Um, if conditions warrant, I will post shorts about Hurricane Milton, um, and I will more than likely will have a late update tomorrow night on the status of Hurricane Milton. Until then, hope everyone has a safe Monday night, and I'll talk to you again soon.